everybody. Welcome back. You're watching Sport Federation TV. Of course, as you know, every week we talk about sport in the Western Cape. In studio, back with us, the president of Western Cape Kickboxing, and Nawaz, the president of Wako, Canada, Canadian Kickboxing. Well, let's start off, both gentlemen. Josh, start off with you. Welcome back.
Seppi, thanks. Yeah, it's always good to be back at the Sports Confederation TV. And
special guest tonight. Special guest tonight, yeah.
Absolutely.
So normally I say, well, it's the first time back in studio, but Maz, this is the first time for you in studio with us.
It is, and I'm very excited. I love coming to South Africa. I've been here a number of times over the years, and it's exciting to be here on the Cape.
So give us a picture here quickly, Josh. What's going on? I mean, we've got Western Cape, and you guys have got, obviously, we know about kickboxing in Western Cape and how successful you've been, winning championships at a national level, a lot of international fighters as well. Here's obviously a special occasion. Just give us a quick rundown. What's going on? We've got Western Cape and we've got Canada. I mean, not just, it's not a province in Canada, but Canada's here.
Yeah, Seppi, you know, South Africa have always had a good relationship with Canada over the years. We had a bilateral agreement with Canada. And yeah, Canada hasn't been here for a while. And last year, they were invited by South Africa. South Africa contacted us in the Western Cape, and this is where we are. We hosted Canada. They have just finished an event, also competition in the Eden district in Oudtshoorn.
Yeah.
So that was the first leg of the tour, and now this weekend, 7th and 8th of July, would be the second leg of the tour.
All right, Maz, let's go to you then. Tell us a little bit about kickboxing in Canada. How popular is it? I mean, obviously, we know Canadian kickboxing, but international travel like this, how is kickboxing going in Canada?
The sport's growing incredibly rapidly. I mean, over the last, we only received recognition for our sport 15 years ago. So as a national federation, I mean, 15 years is a very short span of time when some sports like hockey have been in Canada for hundreds of years. So the growth has been remarkably fast. I think the relationship between South Africa and Canada, it actually started off in the early 90s, where I traveled to South Africa to do a professional fight. My coach was very sick, couldn't arrive, and so when we arrived in Cape Town, they asked Josh to step in and coach me. So this would normally not happen anywhere in the world, where another country would say, oh, it's okay, no problem, we'll coach you.
You won that fight, huh?
Yes, yes. So Josh, because of my coaching. And so Josh and I became good friends, and that was the beginning of this relationship, where every year for almost more than a decade, we would bring a team to South Africa. We would train with the clubs here. We would do an international fight show, usually one or two, between a couple different cities. But in all honesty, this would never have started if someone like Josh wasn't involved in the leadership of kickboxing in this country. Because it helped us realize, because in most countries in the world, kickboxing is very competitive, very large federations, but very nationalistic.
Yeah.
So to come to a country where the country itself said, no problem, our coach will work with your athlete. And this has happened before. And so I think for our federation, we realized that this was a very unique place in the world. And we wanted to keep building this relationship, and it's grown into a fantastic opportunity for both countries.
And the interesting thing that I've just picked up from what you were saying is it sounds to me that as kickboxing Canada, you have the same challenges as South Africa kickboxing. You're a young federation trying to keep athletes and clubs, everybody active, trying to grow the sport, get more people to do kickboxing. Sounds very similar.
It is, and I think, you know, because it's not an Olympic sport yet. Most people know now that for 2028, there are 3 sports that have been shortlisted for the Olympics: lacrosse, softball, and kickboxing.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that once we get into the Olympics, then the entire context for the sport will change.
Yeah.
That's our hope.
Yeah.
But I think our relationship and our challenges are the same. We receive very little government funding, but I think one of the best things about kickboxing is that anybody could do it. So I know in both of our countries, we have a lot of recreational participants, a lot of parents, a lot of families, because they look at it as a martial art, because we train not just punching and kicking, there's discipline, there's character. It's all
Yeah.
part of the growth of the martial art. So I think that's helped us make people realize that the sport itself is open to everybody.
And can contribute to society.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So we're excited. I think in the end, both countries on the international stage, we're still growing and trying to be, a top 10 country,
Yeah.
a top 20 country. I think events like this help because when we travel halfway around the world to come here, and if you go to a world championships, it's the same. You're traveling, different climate, different food, different environment. Our athletes have to adjust and adapt. And I think as soon as our athletes learn adaptation skills, it helps them when they go to a big international tournament like
Yeah.
the Olympics.
Yeah. So Josh, let's go to you. Tell us a little bit about the event. You mentioned that, of course, Maz and his team have already been to Eden. You've also told me that you've got some open events happening in up on the West Coast or in the Milnerton area this weekend. But of course, this weekend is a big event for you, where you're seeing a lot of the Western Cape athletes competing and representing South Africa against Canada.
Absolutely. I think a lot of our Western Cape kickboxers will have an opportunity to have, some of them, the first time international fights. So, and
Got
that's
some
the
names
reason.
for us? Got a couple of names?
Well,
All right, we'll leave the names for another day.
yeah.
All right, give me look.
So we have, it's going to be exciting. We have the Gregory Khans there. We have the.
Well, there we go. I was going to go on the Gregory because you've already won one world
So
championship.
we have St. Dumas there as well.
Right.
And also know we definitely going to have some good fights.
In the fight game, it's obviously one-on-one. It's face-to-face before the fight. But after the fight is finished, people are traveling together, they're eating together.
Yeah.
The relationship, the camaraderie is something to behold.
I think that's the one thing that I would say. I mean, I've traveled and fought in more than 50 countries. And I think the one thing that's very unique about South Africa is just that point. You don't see this. We travel to the United States of America all the time. And your enemies before you fight, your enemies when you fight, and your enemies after you fight. Whereas here, it's the exact opposite. We've had situations where the person driving us around to tour South Africa is then fighting one of the athletes. And this is different for us. And so I think one of the things I've always appreciated is that South Africans view sport as sport. Yeah. And they really want to make sure that before and after, it's a relationship. And so I think every time we come to this country, it's something that Canadians are surprised with because we're so close to the United States, so we get a very different culture. But our Canadian culture is very much like South African culture because it's a very cold country. And when people visit Canada, for them to survive the cold, people have to be hospitable. Yeah. And I've said to everybody, the most hospitable country I've ever been to has been South Africa, and we see it in our sports.
Well, it sounds amazing, and we would normally ask what comes next, but we can see already that the relationship between South Africa, we hope that you absolutely continue to love it. Hopefully the weather will play ball. Unfortunately, we can't control the weather. We can control a lot. Josh, last words from you about the event this weekend and...
Yes, JP, I think, our fight night on Friday evening, and then, of course, we have on Saturday open event where most of our South Africans who's not in the team from the Western Cape will be able to have an opportunity to compete on the tatami with the Canadians and also interact with the Canadians. So on Saturday at Melkbos High School, I think we're going to have some good kickboxing on the tatami. And and those guys are also really ready to rumble it out.
To rumble it out. Maz, thanks for joining us.
Thank
We're
you.
looking forward to seeing you back in the studio at some stage.
I'm sure.
There we go. Josh, and thanks. Good luck.
JP, thank you so much.
There we go, folks. Western Cape Kickboxing again flying the flag proudly, and this time also flying the flag partly for South Africa. A lot of athletes then, of course, in competition this weekend at Vibrant Sports, where we, of course, are hosting the Canadian kickboxing side, the Wako Canadian kickboxing side at Vibrant Sports. Look out for more kickboxing events here in Cape Town and in the Western Cape. We're really proud of the guys who do such an amazing job, and of course bringing international visitors into South Africa. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll carry on talking about sport in the province. Don't go away.